We needed to stop doing it permanently. It was consistently impolite. The fact that it was unsightly to me and had been public knowledge for decades made me feel guilty. Being resilient and starting over was exemplified flawlessly by Tina Turner. She inspired millions with her strength and refusal to conform, lighting up stadiums and shattering barriers in her field. Despite her powerful voice, there were some things she would rather not say aloud, such as certain names. Producers, bandmates, and assistants who worked with Tina were privy to a clandestine list of 6 musicians whose actions had gone too far for her to forgive. No one ever actually said this list, but everyone understood what it meant. This was more than just a difference of opinion, it was a betrayal that caused emotional and professional harm to those involved. Years after her final performance, her influence solidified in music history. The truth about these strained relationships can be revealed. Tina Turner used 6 aliases, and you will never forgive her or forget her. It was the initial and most devastating pain for Ike Turner. The tale of Tina Turner's ascent is typically told in a positive light. However, triumph was preceded by dread. Anna Mae Bullock was her real name before she became Tina. A young woman from Nutbush, Tennessee named Anna Mae had a powerful voice but was unsure of what to do next. She made headlines for finding something, but it was expensive. The late 1950s saw its start at the Club Manhattan in East St. Louis. Local bandleader and studio musician Ike Turner heard her sing and recognized her extraordinary talent, boundless enthusiasm, and magnetic presence. She was rechristened Tina by him. Then he set her up on a stage. What appeared to be an opportunity initially was actually a cage with a shiny gold finish. A fool in love, river deep, mountain high. It's going to work out fine, and the timeless classic, Proud Mary, are among the top hits they created together. Chemistry, strength, and motion were all visible to all. However, a completely different scene unfolded behind the silk curtain. The atmosphere was controlled and dominated by fear, according to former Ikettes and band members. Everything she wore, how much money she had, and even her food was dictated by Ike. In his roles as boss and husband, he demanded complete deference. Rehearsals were challenging, serious consequences were meted out for misbehavior. Not much was said in its defense. Psychological and physical abuse were so prevalent that they were practically expected. A statement from her tour manager, Rhonda Graham, states, "She would get bruised after the show and still go do interviews like nothing happened. Staying alive was more important than strength." When the band played a tour stop in Dallas in 1976, it finally snapped. After years of suffering in silence, Tina finally had enough. One night, she fled after yet another dramatic incident. Under an assumed identity, she checked into a Ramada Inn while dressed in a blood-stained white suit and crossed an interstate. A mobile petrol card and 36 cents were all she had on hand. She disappeared for some time. She survived on hotel food, snacks from vending machines, and leftovers from friends. Despite her lack of resources and the fact that she did not have the legal right to use the name Tina Turner, she began to gradually re-establish herself professionally and personally. She came clean about her history in the 1980s, first through interviews and later with the publication of her autobiography, I, Tina. Astonishment was felt by all. Both the brutality of the situation and her composure were striking. When discussing Ike, she rarely, if ever, became angry. Her silence conveyed more than just a lack of expression. The number of people from her past who were still trailing behind her surprised those who thought the story ended when she left, that moment when admiration for David Bowie waned. In the early 1980s, the 2 most famous musicians in the world were Tina Turner and David Bowie. He was the legendary glam rocker who could switch up his sound with every album, She intended to stage one of the greatest musical comebacks of all time by destroying all obstacles in her path. Industry insiders speculated that two global superstars, one courageous and unrivaled, might team up. It looked like it would happen, however, during a lavish industry party in London in 1983, hosted by a renowned record executive, that future came crashing down. Bowie was popular because he was unpredictable and possessed a magnetic personality. He had a throng of admirers surrounding him and was already drinking. The topic of rock's darker aspects, trauma, survival, and image-making came up, and he finally spoke up. He made light of Tina's history with Ike, recalls a former Capitol Records executive who overheard the discussion. Something like, "Well, it makes you a better person, right?" Aside from being morally incorrect, it was also cruel. It was dead silent in there. Tina, who was standing just a few feet away, froze for an instant. With a tight smile but no words, she then exited the room. Keep your voice down, keep it calm. A scene did not occur. However, those who were familiar with her understood perfectly. Afterwards, she never contacted him again, according to a close friend. There wasn't anger, there was clarity. At that very second, she had all the information she could possibly need. In the years that followed, multiple filmmakers proposed the idea of a collaboration between the two. Every time, Tina declined. Short and sweet, "It's not happening," was the response to an adamant demand. It's been asked before. Tina refrained from publicly discussing what transpired, but those who knew her well also say that it was something she never forgot. It was intolerable that someone she had looked up to could use her life as a punchline after years of abuse. Eliminating it was a chore, because it came from someone very close to them, rather than an enemy or coworker. The subsequent deceit would be much more devastating. Someone she used to refer to as her sister sent it. A friendship gone wrong involving Aretha Franklin. Many soul music fans held Tina Turner and Aretha Franklin in higher esteem than any other artist. On her own, each was a superstar. Tina's music had a punk edge and her performances were electric. In contrast, Aretha had a flawless voice and was born into the church. Their friendship appeared predestined on paper. Years of industry gossip and a media eager to crown just one queen contributed to the underlying tension that prompted the public to smile and praise both. Numerous times they encountered one another during the late 1960s and early 1970s. These two females revolutionized the role of female artists, dominated the airwaves, and headlined major events. However, rumor has it that in 1971, while they were in New York for a practice session for an award show, their rivalry became personal. An eavesdropping stage manager overheard Aretha telling a colleague, "She screams, I sing." Even though it didn't make it into print, the comment made waves in the business community. Backstage crew members reiterated it. The producers discussed it. The fact that Tina heard it is of utmost importance. The quote would trail the two women for decades, eventually causing them to grow apart. Disciplined behavior is expected in public spaces. Avoid a conflict centered on magazine covers. In the end, it's all just noise. Despite sharing the same shows, they never became close. What viewers noticed was that the models didn't interact with one another in any way. Not even by hugging or sharing changing rooms. Stay courteous at all times. I've never felt warmer. Producers proposed that the two artists perform a duet for the Grammys in 1983, and Aretha readily agreed. Without offering an explanation, Tina declined. She didn't see the use in acting as though she loved someone who had made fun of her writing skills in the past, and her close friends and family understood this. They seldom crossed paths throughout the years. A smile or nod would cross their faces every so often. After Aretha Franklin passed away in 2018, Tina released a statement honoring her contributions to soul music. However, she refrained from referring to her as a sister, friend, or even a peer. The appropriate amount of space was provided in a courteous farewell. For Tina Turner, being authentic was paramount. Belonging to the faithful was her belief. Silence, in her opinion, frequently spoke louder than words. Something had gone wrong with Aretha. Tina's reaction was to simply eliminate them rather than engage in combat. On the other hand, she wasn't about to suffer another legendary figure's wrath. The younger star who admired her on stage but demeaned her actually did it. The betrayed pledge. Phil Spector, renowned producer Phil Spector, approached Tina Turner in 1977 with what appeared to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that could have made or broken her career. Wall of Sound was just one of Spector's many notable works. The music industry was abuzz with excitement. They were offered a full-length album, complete creative control, and studio resources typically reserved for megastars by Spector. The offer was like a second chance for Tina, who was starting a new life after Hurricane Ike. In an interview, Spector reportedly told a writer, "Tina Turner is the only female voice strong enough to handle real rock and roll." In his interviews, Spector often included dramatic flourishes, an unusually kind compliment from a man with a reputation for grit. Dress rehearsals were to take place. Experiments were discarded. A studio was reserved in Los Angeles. The band was prepared to play. All parties were prepared. Nothing happened after that. No contact. Absent explanation. As time passed, weeks passed, there was no response when Tina's boss attempted to contact her. Rumors began circulating in the industry after a while, suggesting that Spector had abruptly reconsidered his decision and was now keen on collaborating with his ex-wife, Ronnie Spector. A cautionary tale, my apologies. Complete stillness, changing her routine, practicing her voice, and establishing trust were all parts of Tina's meticulous preparation for the meetings. She hadn't anticipated it. According to those who knew her well, her emotions went beyond mere sadness. She felt abandoned. An associate of hers in the sound engineering department remarked, "She didn't rant or rage. As she surveyed the area, she declared, 'That will never happen again.' She was being very serious." When asked about Spector in subsequent interviews, she remained remarkably silent. The majority of the time, she remained silent, occasionally offering a brief nod or shrug. The previous bridge's transformation into ash was evident. Falsehoods did not necessarily cause conflicts or issues in Tina Turner's public life. On occasion, it crept up on people like a wave of muted noise, accompanied by broken promises. Though Phil Spector's absence may have wounded her, she could rest assured that her next confrontation would be boisterous and involving an attention-seeking individual. Battle of the Titans featuring Elton John. As early as 1999, Tina Turner had dominated the stage. Global audiences adored Elton John for his charisma, intelligence, and showmanship. The idea of the two stars collaborating on a special show was thrilling, so it was proposed during a TV Millennium event. The building has 2 stories, a night to remember forever. However, behind the scenes, peace was never truly established. It was clear during the first practice that something was wrong. Tina, who is renowned for her professionalism and meticulous preparation, anticipated precision. She was quite particular about having a lot of routines and practices. But Elton was a busy man with the demeanor of a seasoned performer who didn't require constant oversight. It became extremely heated, according to a backup singer who was present at the sessions, when Tina abruptly stopped the band mid-song and begged Elton to speed up a section that she felt was dragging. She was being straightforward without being nasty. According to the performer, he snapped. "She seemed like a drill sergeant," he pointed out. It's accused her of being challenging. Everything is possible. Eventually, Elton stormed out of the studio after hours of fighting and passive-aggressive retakes. The production crew made sure they were both back on set for taping. Even after finishing the show a few days later, the chemistry wasn't there anymore. Every smile was fake, every glance was sidestepped. According to an insider, Elton smiled for the cameras, but their eyes never met. It was just for show. Cooperation was difficult, Elton would later tell a radio interviewer half-jokingly. Tina never responded publicly, as she always did. She confided in him about her innermost thoughts when she was alone. According to a longtime acquaintance, she called him brilliant but brittle. He had a gift, but she thought his pride got in the way of being great. Fire, concentration, and honesty, in Tina's view, were more important than show when it came to being an artist. The reason wasn't a lack of desire to perform alongside him, rather, it was a measure she took to ensure her own safety. Not to mention that the altercation with Elton was monumental, intense, and ear-piercing. Tina Turner never forgot the names of the people who helped bring her fame behind the scenes, even after she was no longer in the spotlight. Not to be mean, but to stay alive. The cost of remaining silent. A lot of new ideas, triumphs, and comebacks occurred in Tina Turner's work. However, concealed beneath the spotlight of fame and popular songs stood a woman who in her private life and within the music industry, which did not always shield its trailblazing artists from betrayal, contempt, and tragedy, she owes a great deal to these 6 artists. They brought back memories of her arguments, the respect she demanded, and the standards she refused to scrimp on. Public shaming and fights in the tabloids were unnecessary for Tina. She made her arguments in the midst of silence, in set lists, and when her collaborations and speeches omitted specific names, for the simple reason that Tina Turner never once accepted defeat gracefully. We won. When it turned out to be false, she didn't budge. For watching this film, I am grateful. Hopefully you found it interesting. After this, we ask that you like and subscribe, and until then, take care.